The wind clawed across the Atlantic, its shrill cry muffled only by the steel hull of HMS Valkyrie. Her engines hummed a low, rhythmic growl beneath the boots of her crew, slicing through the frigid waters north of Iceland. A cold moon cast pale light over the endless dark, illuminating nothing but rolling waves and restless shadows. The war had brought many to these seas, but none prepared for what Valkyrie was about to face. Commander Eliza Warren stood alone on the bridge, eyes narrowed against the black horizon. A war-hardened veteran in her late 30s, she wore her scars like invisible medals. Her career had survived depth charges, torpedo scares, and the haunting silence of failed rescue missions. Yet tonight, something gnawed at her spine. She couldn't name it, but it hung heavy in the air, in the murmurs of the crew and the sluggish rhythm of the ship's pulse. This patrol was different. Below deck, Lieutenant Callum Rhodes adjusted his headset. The sonar station crackled faintly with static, punctuated by the slow pings of the Valkyrie's scanning array. Rhodes was tall, gaunt, with a twitch in his left eye earned from staring too long into sonar monitors that told half-truths and sea mirages. He traced the current sonar sweep with a gloved finger, then froze. Contact. Possibly submerged. Bearing 270 slow movement, he muttered into the intercom. Up on the bridge, Warren reacted instantly. Depth? Unknown, Rhodes replied, static lacing his words. It's not bouncing back right, like it's absorbing the sound. Commander Warren tapped the console. Could be a new U-boat hull. The Germans keep modifying their toys. No, sir, Rhodes said quietly. This isn't steel. It's cold. Dead cold. In engineering, Ensign Reyes adjusted a coolant valve with precise care. He was young, ambitious, and more curious than most naval regulations were comfortable with. When Rhodes's voice crackled through the pipes, Reyes perked up. Anomalous readings always interested him more than routine maintenance. He rushed to the auxiliary sonar, running diagnostics. The signal was wrong. Not jagged like machinery. It pulsed, slow and deep, almost rhythmic, almost biological. He made his way to the bridge with his data slate. Commander, this isn't U-boat behavior. Look at this modulation. There's a sequence here. Not random noise, maybe echolocation or communication. Warren didn't look at him. She stared forward, her breath shallow. Are you telling me the sea is talking to us, Ensign? I don't know, but whatever's down there is not hiding. It's waiting. That word lingered. Waiting, like a predator or something older. Something that had no need to run. Take us toward it, Warren said finally. Maintain sonar silence. Passive scans only. The Valkyrie adjusted course, engines softening as the crew obeyed in murmurs. The darkness ahead felt thicker now, like they were piercing a curtain that shouldn't be drawn aside. No stars above, no waves lapping the hull, just silence. 20 minutes passed before the first shape appeared on radar. It wasn't a U-boat. It wasn't anything they had a classification for. The thing rested on the seabed, half buried in black silt, 200 meters long, oval-shaped almost like a stingray, but covered in metallic plating etched with patterns that shimmered against logic. Its surface refracted light like oil on water. Around it, smaller structures, dead U-boats, their hulls split or melted, floated aimlessly, like broken toys discarded by something that had grown bored. Rhodes wiped sweat from his brow. I don't think it's German, Reyes whispered. It's listening to us. What? Warren snapped. I reversed the sonar feed. It's feeding back our own pings in delayed fragments, like an echo that chooses when to answer. Are we looking at some kind of Nazi experiment? Rhodes asked, half joking, half afraid. Warren stepped forward. Number, whatever this is, it's older, and it's watching us now. As if on cue, the object stirred. A ripple passed through the water. The sonar went dead for 3 seconds, then returned in a series of distorted pulses, sharp, almost like words in some forgotten code. The object's surface changed color, deep blue to crimson. Something like an eye opened in the center, vertical, black, unblinking. "Back us off," Warren barked. But it was too late. The ship's engines began to lag. Pressure levels shifted. Lights flickered below deck. Reyes ran to the control panel. "Something's interfering with our magnetics, pulling current from the batteries." Rhodes looked up, his voice hoarse. "It's not attacking. It's scanning. It's learning us." The crew scrambled to regain control, but the water around them pulsed with force. Bubbles rose from beneath, and the sonar emitted one final ping before going silent. The object did not move. It simply existed there, asserting itself. Finally, the engines stabilized. Warren stood frozen for a moment, then turned to Reyes. "Shut everything down but life support. I want us dead silent. Passive drift. We're not going to provoke this thing." The crew complied, drifting into a nervous silence broken only by the creak of metal and the soft hiss of air vents. No one dared speak above a whisper. Warren stared out at the thing in the dark. Whatever lay before them, it wasn't a weapon of war in the traditional sense. It was older than war, or maybe it was war, distilled into some unknowable form. "We log this. Encrypt it. No broadcast," she said. "The Admiralty would either call us mad or send the fleet. I don't want either." Reyes hesitated. "What if it follows us?" Warren turned her gaze to the still sea. "Then we'd better give it no reason to." Behind them, the dark shape remained still. But every person aboard Valkyrie felt it. A pressure, a presence, like the weight of a great mind submerged deep within a sleeping leviathan. The cold sea watched, and it remembered. The silence aboard Valkyrie was absolute. Power systems were down, lights dimmed to emergency glow, and the ship drifted like a ghost on the water. The mysterious object remained motionless in the deep, a sleeping titan beneath them. But even in its stillness, the crew felt its awareness, like the prickle of unseen eyes pressed against their minds. Commander Warren paced the bridge, boots muffled by the rubber lining on the deck. Her expression was unreadable, but every glance at the sonar console betrayed a flicker of unease. She had commanded in war zones, navigated minefields, and faced submarines in nightmarish close-quarters combat, but never had she confronted something that defied classification. It wasn't fear of death gripping her. It was the unknown, coiled and vast. Down in the mess, Lieutenant Rhodes stared into a cold tin of beans, untouched. His normally sharp features had sagged since their encounter with the object. The rhythms of the ship, regular announcements, orders, engine hum, had all been replaced by oppressive quiet. Around him, the rest of the crew whispered as if afraid sound itself would wake the thing. "It's alive," Rhodes muttered. Ensign Reyes, seated opposite him, barely lifted his eyes. "I ran another pattern analysis while the command circuits rebooted. That pulse it gave off wasn't noise. It matched human brainwave frequencies. It was mimicking us, learning how we think." Rhodes set the tin aside. "So what's it waiting for?" "I don't think it's waiting," Reyes said. "I think it's deciding." On the bridge, Warren studied the last logged visuals of the object. She froze the frame on the moment the eye opened. Round, alien, but disturbingly intelligent. Not a weapons lens or a reactor port. Something biological. Something ancient. Her instinct screamed this was not a creation of man, nor of any nation's hidden science division. The intercom crackled. A voice came through, gravelly and shaken. "Commander, this is Chief Walton in maintenance. We've got a heat bloom on the lower hull, Section D12. Warren snatched the handset. "Repeat, a heat bloom?" "Yes, ma'am. Localized thermal spike. No breach. It's like something's clinging to the hull and warming it." Warren exchanged a glance with her helmsman, who paled. "Send a drone. Visual only. I want eyes on it now. Within minutes, the drone feed appeared on the main screen. The image was grainy, underwater currents tugged at the camera, but what it captured froze the bridge crew in place. Attached to the Valkyrie's underbelly was a dark tendril, almost organic in appearance, yet it gleamed like alloyed metal. It had latched onto the hull with delicate, spindly protrusions. Pulses of dim blue light flowed up its length, vanishing into the structure below the sea floor. It wasn't harming them. Not yet. But it was connected. Reyes's voice broke through the tension over the intercom. "Commander, I think it's downloading." "Downloading what?" Warren demanded. "Our data, logs, transmissions, probably our whole system's archive. Anything it can reach." Warren's mind raced. The Valkyrie carried encrypted war records, mission data, and classified intelligence on naval encounters. But worse than secrets falling into enemy hands was the realization that this wasn't espionage. It was examination. Autopsy. Before she could issue the next order, the drone feed flickered, then died. So did every remaining system on the ship. Darkness swallowed the bridge. Emergency lights flickered on in pulses, like the heartbeat of a dying beast. The silence was replaced by a low, vibrating hum, as if the ship itself was being tuned like a vast instrument. Rhodes stumbled up to the bridge, pale and breathless. "Something's happening to the crew," he gasped. "People are hearing things. Some of them say it's speaking to them in their minds." Warren grabbed him by the shoulder. "You?" He hesitated. "I saw something. Not a vision. More like a memory that wasn't mine. Cities made of crystal. Creatures floating in air. A planet burning from within. Then a void, endless and alive." Reyes appeared moments later, his hands trembling. "It's not just telepathy. This thing, whatever it is, it has a consciousness so vast it doesn't even register us as individuals. We're a species, an entry, a category, and it's updating our profile." Warren breathed in slowly, grounding herself. "Then we give it nothing more to take." She turned toward the helm. "Cut the emergency feeds, flush all remaining data cores, strip the comms to analog and isolate the generator. We go dark, total blackout." As the crew scrambled, Valkyrie's last electric hum faded. For the first time since its launch, the warship was completely silent. And then the sea began to rise, not in waves, not in storm, but in displacement, like something vast beneath them was shifting. The object on the seabed cracked open, not with violence but with grace, like a flower blooming in reverse. Light poured upward, cold, brilliant, and unfiltered by water. Shapes moved within, not machines, not men. Things that pulsed with thought, memory, judgment. Rhodes sank to his knees. "I don't think it's a weapon. I think it's a vault, a library. We triggered an archive protocol." Reyes whispered, "Or we're being recorded." Commander Warren stood firm, her silhouette framed against the glowing sea. "Whatever this is, it doesn't belong to us. We survive by not pretending we understand it. We observe, we endure." Slowly, the tendril detached. The light dimmed, the hum faded, the sea stilled, and the object began to descend, sinking back into the silt, erasing itself from sonar as though it had never existed. Warren let out the breath she'd been holding. The ship's power flickered on, emergency systems returning. The bridge crew looked to her for direction. She didn't give orders, only a warning. "No transmissions. Not until we're home. This never happened." But as she turned to the screen, where the last image lingered like an afterimage of a dream, she knew they hadn't just found something in the deep. It had found them. A brittle silence had settled across Valkyrie, not the silence of peace, but the wary stillness after surviving something incomprehensible. Though power had returned, none of the crew spoke above a whisper. Every movement felt deliberate. Every step on the steel deck a reminder of how close they'd come to being erased by something that defied understanding. Commander Warren sat alone in her quarters, the lights dimmed low. The glowing datapad in her hands displayed only fragments now, systems wiped clean by emergency protocol. There was no evidence of the entity, no logs of the encounter, no recordings of the light or the tendril. Even the sonar records had been corrupted, overwritten by static like a defense mechanism had kicked in. But Warren didn't need files to remember. She would never forget what she had seen and what she had felt. She wasn't the only one haunted. Down in engineering, Chief Walton meticulously disassembled the backup generator, pretending his hands didn't shake with each bolt removed. The warmth that had emanated from the entity still clung to the hull like a memory soaked into the metal. And Rhodes, once brash, composed, hadn't left the medical bay since they'd surfaced, not for treatment, but to study his own vitals. His heart rate had normalized, but the visions hadn't stopped. It was Rhodes who first raised the question none of them wanted to ask. What if the entity hadn't left? What if a part of it remained on board? During the third night after resurfacing, Reyes experienced another vision. This time, he was wide awake. The ship was quiet, the air recycled and dry. He had been trying to recalibrate the radar array when the consoles flickered, not like a malfunction, but like a signal. Shapes bloomed in his mind, not words, concepts, maps of stars that didn't exist in any human catalog, a binary sequence that repeated until he instinctively copied it down, unsure why. When he brought it to Warren, she stared at the data in stunned silence. This is a trajectory. To somewhere we've never charted, Reyes confirmed. And look, embedded here. A signature, almost like a handshake. You think it's trying to communicate? She asked. I think, he replied carefully. It left something behind. Not a probe, not hardware. A cognitive imprint, a fragment of its awareness, bonded to our systems, maybe even to us. That night, Warren walked the length of the ship. Crew members gave her uneasy nods but said little. They all felt it. The same sensation of being watched, not maliciously, but curiously. As if the ship were no longer just metal and code, but shared something else now. Something aware. And yet, no harm came. In fact, strange efficiencies began surfacing. Broken components auto-corrected diagnostics. Old files they hadn't accessed in years were restored and reorganized. Navigation became almost intuitive, the system predicting course corrections before they were input. It was subtle at first, then impossible to ignore. What if we're not in control anymore? Rhodes said during a private meeting. What if it's guiding us somewhere? Warren looked out through the reinforced glass at the sea beyond, the stars reflecting on its still surface. We brought a warship to the deepest part of the ocean expecting to find Cold War relics. Instead, we found something that has no interest in our battles. It didn't destroy us. It adapted us. But why? Reyes answered. Because we're useful. Because our minds are structured enough to carry its message, but still flexible enough to grow. That was the moment Warren made her decision. When Valkyrie returned to port, the crew was debriefed. Their official reports cleansed of the encounter. They were praised for a successful test mission and given extended shore leave. But none of them slept well. They had seen something that rewrote the boundaries of their understanding. And deep inside each of them, especially those who had touched the entity's thoughts, something lingered. A compulsion, a direction, a calling. Warren remained behind on the ship as the others disembarked. She walked the decks one final time, stopping before the main console. The new navigation chart, crafted with coordinates no human had entered, glowed softly. She traced the trajectory with her finger, noting how the path extended not just across oceans, but space. It was an invitation, or perhaps a test. Would they follow? Her hand hovered over the comm panel. One word would be enough. One order, and Valkyrie would be back at sea, engines humming, guided by something that had crossed the stars to speak in pulses and thought. She didn't press it. Not yet. But she didn't turn away either. Outside, the night air was still, but the tide had shifted. And somewhere beneath the layers of sea and time, the vault waited. Not for discovery, for return.